Hi, my name is Emily Gomez, and I'm an Assistant Director here in University Career Services, and I'll be offering you a few federal employment application tips if this is an interest area. I typically work with students who have an interest in applying to a federal agency that posts and recruits for their positions through USA Jobs. There are many federal agencies that use their own websites to manage the recruitment process, and I'm happy to help with questions around that as well. But just know that this presentation will focus more around how to navigate USA Jobs. So I wanted to start out with one of the most common reasons someone would come to see me. So I completed a pretty extensive training through the Resume Place, which is a private firm that works with people who want to have federal resumes completed. And one of the things to consider is how the industry resume differs from a federal resume. So for the most part, federal resumes are much more lengthy. The writer assumes that the reader would think they have no skill whatsoever. So things like soft skills, communication, writing, reading, analytical skills, that sort of stuff that you would assume the reader knows. In a federal resume, it needs to be explicitly there. You also have these accomplishment statements where you might think of answering an interview question about what was impactful for your role in an internship, volunteer, previous work experience, and that sort of stuff. You'll also have hours per week worked, address, supervisor information where that would not be appropriate to include on the industry resume. So I wanted just to give you a quick snapshot about how those two documents differ, but essentially it'll be just really lengthy. Another thing that's helpful when I meet with students is to talk about how they search on USA Jobs. So it can be a little overwhelming by just searching keywords or just searching agencies. So what I encourage students to do is think about searching by groups and series. So I've screenshotted a rather large document from the Office of Personnel Management, and there are many groups and series. So I'm just showing you one here, and this is just a common one for undergraduate students studying in the humanities, so that's why I chose to show that. And here we'll have common entry-level positions like economist, foreign affairs, international relations, the intelligence series, sociology, history, psych, some social work positions as well. So what the groups and series search allows you to do is to search across different agencies for the same type of role. So that may allow you to kind of open up your search a little bit more because many of us know the really large agencies, but we may not know that, hey, this agency that I never thought about also would hire someone with my background. So like I mentioned, there's many different groups and series. So if you're unsure about how your academic background might kind of coincide with one of the groups and series, I'm happy to kind of look over what you've worked on and kind of relate that to one of the series. And there may be several groups that sort of align with your background. The next thing I do get questions about is how to kind of understand what GS level you should be searching. So for the most part, your bachelor's level positions are going to be a GS 5. If you've done well and you have a 3.0 or above, you would have what's called superior academic achievement, and you may be able to enter into the same position at a GS 7. Master's level folks, GS 7, GS 9, depending on how many years. And then your higher level PhD degrees, JD, that sort of thing, would be your higher levels. But for the most part, undergraduate students are going to search GS 5 through GS 7. I wanted to screenshot a couple of parts of announcements from a position on USA Jobs. So there's several ways to search. I mentioned the groups and series. There's also on their home page a recent grads link, so you can certainly search that and then filter by GS level if you wanted to. So this particular position is a GS9 with promotion potential to a 12. So that's, you know, what you saw in there, the highest level that's not really like an appointed position. So that's a really nice kind of grow professional development role. Other things to note. So this is a position where you can actually apply through the USA Jobs page. Some agencies will have what they call public notices. So it's just a, hey, we're going to open up recruitment soon. You'll need to go to our agency page and complete the application through our portal. So in that case, it would have like public notice in parentheses typically, and there would not be this apply online feature. The other thing that's nice that this position notes is that if you are expected to graduate within 45 days, so that's, you know, you're applying at the beginning of that semester where you're going to graduate, you can definitely apply. Some agencies are very explicit and they'll say you can't apply for this role until the degree is printed on the transcript. And so just make sure you're reading every line of the announcement to make sure so that you don't get disqualified for a position related to when your degree posts on your transcript. The other thing I wanted to mention is kind of how you'll be evaluated. So there's many different steps. There's obviously the profile, the resume, and then your responses to the occupational questionnaire. When I meet with a student for the first time and they show me a position, I immediately go to the occupational questionnaire and we kind of look through that to figure out if it's you know, something that they're actually qualified for, or something that, or if it's something that they're like, oh, this is a really cool position, I would be really interested in doing it. I don't really have experience in every aspect, but I think I could learn. So that sort of approach would maybe work in a private industry, but in federal, you really have to have a degree of competency in every single one of those areas, duties, qualifications. So always, always, always preview the questionnaire. It's usually embedded towards the bottom, so you'll get this link and we'll go to that in a second. But I wanted to share this part here. So category A, B, and C. And so this can also be best qualified, least qualified, you know, that's kind of scale. And so the questionnaire has many questions and they're all weighted differently. And then agencies have different cutoffs associated with their questionnaire responses. So some of them are fairly high, 90, 85. And so in order for your resume to even get read, you must score in that highest category on the questionnaire. So that's why it's so important to really look at that and really ask yourself, do I have this competency from any kind of experience? They don't really care if it was a class, volunteer, work experience, internship, that sort of thing. A class maybe, but you know, you need to give yourself credit for how much you might have led a project or consulted with others. You might have worked with an industry partner, that sort of thing. So if we go ahead and look at a part of the questionnaire, these questions here, 4 to 7, are just yes or no questions. Some of them I've seen after you hit yes, another box would pop out and it would say, please indicate where in your resume the evidence for this competency is, and you might just have to put in, you know, the context from your resume. So as you can also see, I wanted to point out, this is a new page. So many of the agencies have these application managers. Sometimes some of them are through Monster, some of them are through Indeed. Just know that you're going to get pushed through another site to complete the occupational questionnaire. So again, you must be answering positively to all of these questions so that you don't get a score that is too low. The other types of questions are these scaled questions. So questions 8 and 9 here are asking you to kind of rank yourself and consider the prompt above. So please select the one statement that best describes your experience with regard to developing these applications. And so again, you should be answering with these bottom two statements, and then knowing that there's evidence on the resume for your competency. So on a private industry resume, you may just have a course title listed. On a federal resume, because you need to prove that you know how to develop all those, you might have that course title, a colon, and then a whole bunch about the course concepts that were covered, that you did really well in the course, that you participated and tutored other classmates, and more information than you would have ever thought that you would ever share. But again, you have to show evidence for why you are giving yourself that grade. So hopefully this was helpful and gave you a few more ideas about how you might go around looking at positions on USA Jobs, as well as kind of understanding all of the details that are on announcements. I'm happy to support you at whatever stage you are in the process, whether you are just beginning or you found a position and are ready to apply. My email and contact information is there. Feel free to schedule an appointment on the Career Services website and just select me as your counselor.